I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education open agenda meeting for May 10th, 2018. And Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Boroff? Here. Mrs. Brody? Here. Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mrs. Soriani?
Here.
Ms. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Mrs. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the board just met in executive session. We discussed personnel, HIB, suspension and detentions, and legal issues. And announcements for this meeting were given to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, as well as to the Times. Do have a number of additions that are listed on the agenda. 3 for the superintendent's report, and we have 5 for the business report. All of those are already incorporated in the remainder of the agenda. We have instructional updates to look forward to at the next meeting, both recognizing our PTA Council presidents, and also we'll have students who are presenting, which is always exciting. Members of the public want to come. But now we have an opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to come to the microphone. According to Scotch Plains Fanwood Policy 0164 and 0165, you have 2 minutes, and you need to state your name and the town in which you reside. Seeing no one, then we're going to go on to the committee reports. We have several. Okay, Mr. Murray.
Facilities Committee met on Monday. We talked about 4 items, the first being the plan to proceed with the vestibules at the high school for doors 1 and 12. So those will be the first to get installed in the district, and then we're going to be evaluating the rest of the schools as we move forward. Talking about the alarm system at the high school, reviewing a recommendation to alarm all of the doors with the ability to turn off certain doors as necessary, such as 1 and 12 for entrance and exit during the day. The third item is playground maintenance. So the recommendation of the committee is to move forward with approval of the maintenance of the playground equipment at the elementary schools with an approximate cost of approximately $127,000. And the final item was just reviewing of the school security concerns from Lucy Burse and Jeff Kowalczyk to make sure that we're taking into consideration as we're doing our planning some of the items that the community had expressed as concerns. So we reviewed that document, and a majority, if not almost all, have been already incorporated in some sense or have already been done. So I just want to, thank the administration, because they were very attentive to those needs, as well as already proactively working on a lot of those items.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the Facilities Committee? I know everyone had the reports ahead of time. Okay, Dr. Kulikowski, you want to do curriculum?
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. The Curriculum Committee also met on Monday, and we discussed elementary mathematics lesson study by John Veninger. He spoke about 3 lessons each that were done in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades, which focused on the equivalent fractions. The teachers observed other classrooms in their grade level, and then they had debriefings and discussions immediately after each lesson so they can discuss how the students reacted to working with the manipulatives and doing the fractions, and how the teachers taught the lesson and what ways they could tweak it to make it better. What they found was that a variety of manipulatives were used to demonstrate the equivalent fractions. They used circles, squares, and rectangles, and cut and demonstrated fractions by giving students opportunity to physically use cut pieces to show halves that became fourths, eighths, and so on. They helped the students find context for equivalencies, and when using the fraction tiles, the whole was kept on top so that the students could refer back to making equivalent fractions. They add in fractions on a number line. Students need more practice on this. They got out of the lesson study, and more emphasis needed to be placed on the inverse relationship of multiplication and division to support the students' understanding of reducing fractions. And they observed that students sometimes knew the rule, but they didn't really understand the concept, so they needed more time to work that out as well. But overall, he thought it was very successful. And the students that were engaged in it were very happy participating, and the classes that were not in that study want to do their own study as well. Next, Dr. Mass talked about the curriculum matrix, and annually the board approves the district's curriculum matrix. The curriculum matrix includes all the district courses in grades K through 12, and this also provides textbooks and instructional resources as well as the Board of Ed approval date on the course. Next, Dr. Mass presented the professional development plan. The Board of Ed always has to approve the district professional development plan, which includes professional learning goals, professional development activities, state-mandated professional development activities, the professional development budget, after-school workshops, peer coaching description, peer observations description, and survey questions. Next, Dr. Mass presented the district mentoring plan, which we also approve annually. The plan described the requirements for new teachers and the mentor-mentee relationship. Additionally, the new teacher relationship programming is shared along with the agendas for the new teacher roundtable. And then there was an associated budget also given with this plan. Lastly, Dr. Mass presented the summer curriculum work. This was for all content areas, and the work takes place throughout the summer and is completed in collaboration with the supervisors and the teachers for those content areas. And that concludes my report.
Are there questions for that committee? I know a number of you are on the committee, but yes, Dr. Clancy.
I was just going to, yeah, I was hoping that Dr. Mass could just talk a little bit about the mentoring again, like how long does a teacher get to be mentored, and I forget.
Yes.
And it did change.
Well, in our mentoring plan, we have beyond what is required. So we have 3-year roundtables as a long-term induction, but what is required that every new teacher is coupled with a master teacher for a year before they get their permanent certificate.
Oh, okay. And then they can continue on this roundtable.
That's right. Then there's a year 1 roundtable, a year 2 roundtable, and a year 3 roundtable. And what we've also done is we've had ongoing workshops for the mentors as well. So they have incorporated some things that they've learned in the recent coaching with CBT training, cognitive behavioral therapy, so they could also address some of the emotional issues of the challenges of being a new teacher, and the mentors have really valued that.
Oh, terrific.
But
Thank
that
you.
is beyond what we have to do. It's just how the teachers have embellished our program.
Other questions? Okay, and I believe there's also a finance
Yep,
report?
there's a finance report.
Okay,
We
Mrs.
also-
Brody?
Also had our meeting on Monday night, and we had clarified a question we had regarding leaving the federal lunch program, which will increase our flexibility with our choices for what we serve the children for lunch. And it was clarified that we will not have any issues with any other grants that we apply for using the free and reduced lunch. We discussed purchasing 2 more school buses with the 2016-17 excess extraordinary aid because these are due to expire, and that cost is approximately $190,000. We also discussed, as facilities did, the repair of the maintenance and repair, of the playground equipment. We discussed the anticipated bid openings for HVAC for the high school, coming out of capital reserve, a vent hood for the high school cafeteria, which comes out of the 17-18 cafeteria funds, custodial supplies, electrical supplies, and athletic reconditioning, that all comes out of 18-19 funds. That is a yearly thing that we do. And we also discussed the price for a new cafeteria truck. The van that they currently use does not keep the food warm enough, and they're making multiple trips back and forth, and a new cafeteria truck will help eliminate that. And that money will come out of the cafeteria fund, so there'll be no effect on the budget. And we all were in support of all these items.
Questions, comments from that committee? I wanted to ask, are the two buses you're talking about replacing similar in age to the one that we just...
Yes, all of our buses were originally purchased in 2003 and 2004, except for our short bus, which was a year later. So that one has another year of life.
So we have 3 new already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these will be 2 more to complete and then we'll have one bus that's 1 or 2 that's not end of life for another couple of years, so we have some time with them, right?
Yeah,
We replaced the motor in one of them.
One that
or an
we
engine.
put a new engine in
Yeah.
not too long ago, that we'll keep as our spare for a couple more years.
I think it's just important to note that we're not replacing them because we think they have high mileage. There's a legal requirement, a state
Yes.
requirement that we have to have them off the road after a certain number of years. So getting ahead of that, we decided that 2 years ago we would stagger that as opposed to doing it all at once and then incurring another expense all at once down the road.
Thank you.
Part of the business administrator's frugal planning, which is always comes in helpful.
And as far as the school lunch program, did you want to say any more about that for the public?
Well, Debbie, you're going to have to help me if I have an issue with this. But we met with, the last Finance Committee meeting, we met with Mark Vidovich of Pomptonian, and this was regarding leaving the federal lunch program. And they have changed the rules at the state level, which would reduce our flexibility in what food we provide and the quality of food we provide to the students. And it was worked out that we could cover the free and reduced lunch with a minimal increase in price that we would have to do anyway because the state would make us do that anyway, and it would cover the cost that we would lose or cover the money we would lose. So it's really pretty much a net difference of nothing. But what we do get is the flexibility of being able to get higher quality foods and fresher foods for the children to have. And our question at that meeting was if that moving out of there would affect any other Title I funds and grants that we would get, and the answer was it would not. Did I explain that pretty good?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the other thing to note was that they also explained that there's a lot of other districts
Yes,
within the
that's true.
area that have
That are
already
also
left the
doing it,
program.
yes.
Or will be
Or will
leaving
be
within a
leaving the
year.
program within a year,
Yes.
right.
Right, and it all has to do with the amount, there's a threshold of where it doesn't work out for you if you have too many free and reduced lunch
Right.
children, but we're not in that.
But they did change the bidding price, the bidding concept, instead of where what happens is the money goes into our account and we reimburse Pomptonian, our food service company, for their costs for the food. What they're making it be is the companies would bid a fixed price per meal. We would have to anticipate every kind of food that we want them to serve
If we stayed in the old?
in the state program, because they've changed it to, and then you evaluate primarily on cost. So it's to the advantage of whoever's providing the food to you unless you specify it, to use lower quality products. Because it'll be cheaper for them and they get all the profit, not the district where we use it to reinvest in our food program, to provide better foods and things like nicer tables and things like that for the students.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Can I just ask another question about that? So the students who still need the free and reduced lunch will still get it, and then what is the criteria before it was determined by the state, but how is that?
We'll use the same
We'll use the same
criteria.
framework? Okay,
Because we still have to report those figures to the state anyway.
Yes.
okay.
Those numbers, not figures.
Can I ask a stupid question? Why is the state making these changes? It seems to me that a more affluent district has the ability to step out of the program while lower income communities end up with lower quality food as a result of this. What was the impetus for making these changes in the first place, do we know?
My understanding from talking to someone at the the Department of Agriculture was that they got some free software that made it easier to use this type of bidding process.
Oh,
But I don't, that,
Well, I thank the committee and Mrs. Saradaki for taking all this time to investigate this and look at the options and what would be best for the students in Scotch Plains Fanwood. So thank you very much. We did, I think that was all the committee reports. Am I right?
there is one more thing on the food program. If we
Yes.
determine if the ratio changes of free and reduced, or if we determine that it doesn't work for us, it's very easy to go back into it.
Right. Okay. I think that was all the committee reports. We did have one letter to the board we received on May 3rd from Nadi Ashi, Grace Barney, and Alicia Valenciano regarding a 7th grade service learning project. And that brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Mast is going to do that this evening.
Okay, so for 1S, we have out-of-district placement, and there are none at this time. And for 2S, I'd like to move that the Board of Education affirms the superintendent's decision in the April HIB cases reported in executive sessions on April 19th and April 26th.
Is that to vote on tonight or at the next meeting?
That's for next week, to vote on next week.
Okay.
3S is the extended school year placements for the summer of 2018. I'd like to move that the Board of Education approves the following extended school year placements as listed. Also next week?
Next week?
Also next week.
That's also next week. All of these are next week. Well, for 4S, the field trip request, there are none at this time.
All yours are for next week because there's no asterisks except for PERS.
Okay. So for 5S, the curricular matrix 2018-2019, we will move next week that the Board of Education approves the curricular matrix for next school year. 6S is the administrator for 2018 Creator Summer Workshops. We will move that the Board of Education approves Justin Fiore, the School 1 principal, to serve as a certified administrator for the 2018 Creative Summer Workshops. 7S, the Professional Development Plan for 2018-19. We will move next week that the Board of Education approves the Professional Development Plan for the 2018-19 school year as presented at the Board Curriculum Committee meeting on May 7th. And 8S is the District Mentoring Plan for 2018-19. We will move that the Board of Education approves the District Mentoring Plan for the 2018-19 school year as presented at the School Board Curriculum Committee meeting on May 7, 2018. That brings us to
Personnel.
personnel.
And you're going to do that.
And so Approval of the superintendent personnel report. We would like to move that the Board of Education approves the superintendent's recommendations for personnel on the personnel report dated May 10th, 2018. And
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, it's roll call. Yes, I knew that.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the business functions, Mrs. Saradaki.
Okay. The first item I'd like approval for, I'd like the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursement on the May 10th, 2018 report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
2 BUS, next week I'll be, 2 weeks, I guess, asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the disbursement listings for the month of April 2018. 3 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the district school security and fire drill reports for the month of April 2018. 4 BUS, at this time, we have no related service vendors. 5 BUS, I'll be asking for the contract renewal with Strauss Esme for 2018 in the amount of $2,495. There's no increase in the amount from last year. 6 BUS, I'll be asking for the renewal of a contract with Frontline Technologies for what used to be ASOP, Applitrack, and Veritime programs. We will have the numbers by next week. We have numbers this week, but the numbers aren't acceptable to us, so we're going back to them and they're going to be adjusting them. 7 BUS, I'll be asking for approval of the official depositories for the 2018-19 school year, and that's TD Bank and the various bank accounts that we have. The operating account, payroll and payroll agency, the unemployment insurance trust fund, the flexible spending account, the cafeteria fund, the community education fund, which is used for summer workshop, high school athletic fund. We have student activity funds for the high school, middle school, and elementary school. Oh, that's number 9. We have a music account, and then we have petty cash fund. 8 BUS is I'll be asking for the annual approval to acquire services and purchase supplies for 2018 that authorizes the business administrator to advertise for bids, requests for proposals, and competitive contracting, utilizing state contract or purchasing co-op for purchases during the 2018-19 school year. 9 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve the renewal of NJSIAA membership for the 2018-19 school year. That amount is $2,150, and again, it's the same amount as last year. 10 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to award the custodial supply bid, which will be opened on May 23rd. 11 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to award the electrical supply bid, which will be again opened on May 23rd. This evening, I'd like the board to review and approve the playground medic to make playground repairs at the elementary schools for a total cost of $127,121.95. And that's under the Ed Data bid number 8554. We had a company come in that was not Ed Data to do an inspection of the playground. And then we contacted a company under the Ed Data bid to come in, review the inspection. They agreed with the repairs that the initial company had. We called them for price for the repairs. A good part of the price is one of the playgrounds has rubber matting underneath it, and that's about $63,000 to repair because it has holes and breaks in it. And the rest of it is all repairs required. One of our playgrounds has quite a few pieces actually shut down right now with caution tape. The students aren't allowed to use it, so.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions for Mrs. Saradaki?
No, I was going to ask about why evergreen, but yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Do we put the same stuff down, or do we put something?
Well,
Yeah.
it's more up to date, so.
Is it required to have the rubber matting?
No, you have a choice of rubber matting or the,
That's what you're trying to get to.
most of the playgrounds have mulch, but we do spend quite a bit on mulch annually to fill all the other playgrounds. So it's really, this one, we won't need to spend anything on while the rubber mat is there. The other playgrounds were not only man-hours, but the cost of the mulch to refill every year. So there's a maintenance cost on the others. When we install this mat, which is a replacement, there is no maintenance cost after it's spent, so.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
13 BUS, I'll be asking for the approval of the contract with Monmouth Ocean Educational Service Commission for transportation. We don't use this often. At one point, and I don't know if we still have it, we had a student that was attending a school in that area, and then also it was a half-day school and half-day at a vocational school, and so we were using them for the transportation between the two schools. I don't know if that student's still there, but this agreement will cover us if something like that happens again. 14 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the business reports for the month of April 2018. 15 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the bill list for the period April 23rd through May 18th, 2018. And 16 BUS is the bid award for the air conditioning at the high school. The bid did come in higher than we anticipated. The low bid, Teo Technologies, was disqualified because their classification was not what was required in the bid specification in order to complete the job. They were supposed to have a state of New Jersey qualification as a general contractor, and they do not have that because of some of the structural steel work and things that need to be done as part of putting the air conditioning in. The base bid includes everything in the school except the items listed below. EACM is the low bid. If you'll see, the base bid is $2,060,000. We anticipated around $2 million to $2.3 million initially. Apparently, a lot of schools are moving in this direction now. I would recommend doing the whole thing, and if we were going to leave anything out, it would potentially be the boys and girls locker room because of the short period of time that students are in the locker room, which is what the architect said too, that, but I will let the board discuss it and determine what they'd like to do moving forward.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, comments and questions?
So we don't have to, so at this point, is the approval for the base bid and the alternate as well, or is it, like, what is the approval?
That would be up to the person who made the motion.
Oh, I made the motion so that we could have discussion about it now. I move that, yeah, we obviously need to do at least the base bid. But
Right.
I figured once we made the motion and seconded it, we could have discussion about the alternate.
Yeah, we have to have a motion to have discussion.
Yep.
So your motion is for the base bid?
Yes.
Okay. And was that what the second was for? Who did the second?
I did. I guess so, yes.
Okay.
For it, you know.
Okay, now discussion.
So
Why would we not have them move forward with everything while they're in there doing the work?
Well, what I was going to say is that they did say we could wait and do other pieces later if we felt the budget couldn't support it. The one thing you do, though, is when they do come back, there is an additional charge for just remobilizing the equipment and the people on site, so.
But if I look at these bids correctly, we could have Avco potentially rebid just that locker room, which is also $54,000 cheaper than EACM's bid. So I'm just saying, like, if there's a drastic difference in that alternate price for just the locker rooms between those three companies, and even if you disqualify TAB.
And the band and choral room, too, we could.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, like, if you look at the disparities in pricing, the gymnasium is a lot cheaper in the current bid than it is on Avco, but the locker room is $54,000 higher. There's a grave disparity in the pricing. I don't know what the setup cost is going to be, but is it going to be $54,000? I couldn't imagine that it being, but I don't know. I'm just saying, I agree with the boys and girls locker room pieces not being as much of a necessity as some of the others, but there is a huge difference in that specific bid price, if that's the one we left out, my own opinion.
Can I ask what the base bid covers?
Everything in the high school that is not currently air-conditioned, except with the exception of the wood shop and the auto shop. And the reason they didn't cover those is with the auto shop doors being opened and closed, the size of the room, it would be very, very costly to air condition that room. The wood shop, apparently, as they work with wood and saw and stuff, the dust that gets into an air conditioning unit, it would be a maintenance nightmare to keep the air conditioner working effectively in the room.
So the base bid includes the girl and boys locker room, that's what we were discussing possibly?
No, it includes everything except what's listed underneath.
Everything except what's listed
So
here.
it's the balance of the high school except the items listed.
Okay, and the wood and auto shop.
Right.
Which your recommendation is not to do.
Right.
Is there any room to go back to EACM and ask why? Because the other two bids were significantly different for the boys and girls locker room.
We can ask why, but we can't negotiate with them.
Okay.
Well, can't we do everything but just leave out the locker room?
We can.
Yeah, so do everything that's additional, the alternates, except boys and girls locker room.
Somebody would need to make that motion.
Well, I'll make
Well,
that motion.
first we have to vote yes or no.
But you can amend.
We can amend it?
Yep.
Okay. So you could amend it if
So the
you,
motion on the floor is just for the base right now. It's
Right.
not the alternates.
Right.
We have to vote on that, and then there'd be a separate motion
Well, you
for the
could-
well, he's
alternates.
saying we could amend it.
Amending the current
Yeah.
motion, okay.
Right, so that we don't.
Or you could, by consensus, if the maker and the seconder agree to
Modify it.
modify it, and then you just have one motion on the floor without the
Keep in
amendment.
mind that the prices that were quoted from these companies were based on the larger picture of being here for the base work as well, and that Avco's price may go up significantly if that's the only part of the job that they're bidding on at that time. Like either of these companies, the price is going to go up because it's going to be a whole new mobilization. They're not going to already be here like they would be for the base and the other things.
But
So,
one thing we could do, is, if you choose, is just leave out the locker rooms to determine if it's really an issue for the students or not, too.
Has it been an issue for them that there's no air conditioning in there now?
I have not heard complaints specifically about locker rooms.
I would imagine that because there's no windows, it's probably not as hot as some of the others, but I don't, and they're not on the upper floor, so,
No, it's on the first floor.
but I'm
I don't
not,
know, if they're coming in from gym.
Yeah.
To get changed back into their clothing to go about their classes.
but they're in there for they literally have less than 7 minutes to
To
do all
change
that.
and get out of there.
But if the room is hot and sticky.
I don't think, well, that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm just thinking, if I were coming from playing gym and I were hot and sweaty, I would want to be in a cooler room to change my clothing.
I personally would rather spend 190,000 on something other than block arms, personally, for 7 minutes of time.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and it sounds like that the motion is just for the base bid. And I don't hear any modification of the bid.
Well, I did. I said
How
I would
about-
modify
Well,
it.
let's see.
I made the motion, so I'll modify it.
Okay.
So I'll modify the motion to be the base bid plus alternates 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'll second that.
Okay,
That's consented to by the seconder? So, okay, so now you have a new motion.
any more comments or questions? This is voting on the base bid plus alternates 2, 3, 4, and 5. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, Mrs. Saradaki.
We have 2 more bids that will be opened on May 23rd. One is for an exhaust hood purchase for the cafeteria. We need more fresh air and exhaust for the cafeteria, and this will also cover us if we ever go to a block lunch. It will be enough exhaust in the cafeteria to handle more cooking surfaces. So, and that would come out of the cafeteria fund. That would not come out of the operating budget. And that opening is on May 23rd also. And we'll also have our athletic reconditioning bid for next year opened on May 23rd. Oh, 19 BUS. And I wanted the board to have time to...
18 BUS? Oh, you mentioned that.
Oh, okay. 19 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the withdrawal from the National Lunch Program. Now, it is helpful if we wanted to vote on that tonight, but it's not necessary. There's just a lot of work that has to be started in May in case we don't withdraw. So I don't know if the board would prefer to wait or do that tonight. I wanted to give people time to think about it since it was just being brought to the board tonight, so.
Can vote on that?
Okay with me.
We're good with voting.
I could vote.
Okay, is there a motion? And we'll see if we,
So moved.
Second.
now, any comments or questions? I hear people saying they're happy to vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
roll call vote.
Has to be a roll call. It's a roll call?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Sure.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
And then 20 BUS, we had a couple of errors in our calculations that were put into the agenda last time, and so I'm asking the board to vote on the transportation contract renewal corrections. The rates are correct, that it should be a 1.5% increase, but some of the dollars were wrong. For example, there was $549,000 listed for the LP package. It's $331,000, and a couple of the per diem rates were off by just a couple cents, but we have to have it match exactly to go to the county. So that's why I'm asking for...
So the rate was the same, but some of the amounts were, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the cost under the first item listed, Durham School Services LP package, actually was incorrect because it was a total of every package, not just the one
I
package.
see.
So it was over 500,000 that was listed on the first time we approved it. And then some of the the per diem rates were off by a couple of cents. That's important when we send it to the county. It has to match exactly for their approval. So that's, we're just asking, rather than do it piecemeal, we just put the whole thing in again to ask for the board's approval.
So moved.
You want that tonight? Okay. I heard a first and a second. All those in favor?
I have a quick question.
Oh, sorry, okay.
The increase is pretty significant.
The state comes out with the
They
increase.
dictate that, so we don't even have a choice?
Well, when we've had poor service from a company, in the past, we used to be able to go back to them and say, your service hasn't been great, we'd like to do 1.3 instead of 1.51. But right now, there is no flexibility with bus services.
But this went from .3, the state raised it from .3 to 1.5?
0.3, yes, they got almost no increase last year.
It's like 5 times in 1 year. It's pretty steep.
They use some sort of metric at the state that's
Free app
one
that
of
they
the
got
consumer
again to
price
do the free lunch
index.
thing they use for buses.
Same software?
Same software. It does bus calculations and free lunches. Okay. No, it's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions?
But this is special.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You want to talk about the high schools?
Okay, for all the items that we didn't vote on tonight, comments and questions for Mrs. Saradaki for any of those items in the business report?
Just ask. Or you could.
If something comes up between now and May 24th, you can reach out to Mrs. Saradaki. That brings us to board policies. Mrs. Winkler?
Yes, at our next meeting, I will ask that the board approve second and final reading for adoption of the following policies. P1631, residency requirement for person holding school district office employment or position, which is a new policy for us. Policy and Regulation 3144, certification of tenure charges. Policy 3144.12, certification of tenure charges for inefficiency, which is a new policy. Policy 3144.3, suspension upon certification of tenure charge, which is also a new policy. And Policy and Regulation 7441, electronic surveillance in school buildings and on school grounds. At our last meeting, I did go into a little more detail about these policies, but just briefly, I'll say that they are all required changes based on changes in the state codes and statutes.
And these are some of the things Strauss Esme helps keep us updated on, right? Okay, you're making the motion?
I'll make the motion at
next
the
week.
next meeting.
Okay. Any comments or questions? New board business? Other board business, requests to attend workshops or workshop reports?
I have a workshop report.
Okay.
I went to the STEAM presentation at the NASA Center in Maryland on Friday, a week or so ago. It was very interesting. They did supply buses. I decided to drive myself, thankfully, because one of the buses broke down. So I did not have to go through that hassle. But because one of the buses broke down, that was the bus that was transporting us through the site to the other buildings to see other presentations. So the whole day got a little messed up. So I did end up to go to the Mars rover lab, where they direct the Mars rover into doing samples on Mars, and they had one of the scientists there explaining how they do that, and they simulate Mars in that room that we were standing in, and then they do all the code and make sure that Mars rover is going to work well and do what it wants it to do. It takes a few months to do that, and then it takes 14 minutes for the code to get to the rover. Rover does its thing overnight and then sends the code back. It takes 14 minutes for it to come back to Earth, and so it was really pretty cool. They're going to put another Mars rover up as well. Then we went to the astrobiology lab, where they get rocks from the moon, from the Apollo missions, and from asteroids, and they bring them back to Earth, and they analyze them. And so it was really very interesting. And the whole point of the whole thing was to have school boards and school districts partner with NASA and use NASA's resources in order to help integrate STEAM curriculum through little kids all the way up because they are the future people that will work at NASA. So it was really very interesting. They have a resource center that was sort of like a library. We ended up in there by accident because the plans got changed, and she was really quite like a librarian in the NASA room, and where and teachers can call up and get any kind of resources. They can arrange Skype meetings with astronauts into the schools. So if a teacher is doing like black holes, they can contact them, and then they can have an astronaut Skype in. So there's a lot of resources at NASA that are for free, that you can take advantage of, and they're looking to partner. You can't go to them and say, tell me how to do it. You have to go to them already with a plan, and this is what I want to do. This is the strategic plan for the district, and this is what we want to do. What can you do to help us get there? They're really interested in doing that, and it was really a pretty neat thing. Also, in this library, this resource center, they do professional development that is not necessarily for free, but they will tailor your professional development for your teachers. And you go to Maryland, and you go to the Goddard Center. So it was really very interesting. It was a shame the whole day got a little messed up, but for what I got to see, it was really worth it. So I have resources that I'll share with everybody. Yeah, so it was cool.
Glad you got to go.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Anyone else workshop reports? I know the next week on Wednesday, they're having the meeting on government relations, and so I think some of us are planning to go to that, and some of the New Jersey legislators will be there, so we'll report on that next time. And next, we'll also be looking at a motion for buses for project graduation at the next meeting, approving the minutes, and that brings us to a chance.
These are the March minutes.
The minutes we have to do.
Oh, these are the March minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and do those. I see.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, abstentions
To
for anyone?
abstain from the March 19th minutes. I was not at that meeting, either the exec or the open public meeting.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have another opportunity for anyone from the public to come to the microphone. Seeing no one, we have the good of the order.
For the good of the
Mrs. Winkler?
I went to the art show last week, which was pretty fantastic. Our students are creating beautiful things under the tutelage of our art teachers, so kudos to all of them. That was really impressive. I went to the band concert last night at the high school, which was amazing. Our music program, we already know, is pretty good, so that's kind of an understatement. But our music program is really, really strong, and it was really impressive, and it was great to hear the music. And I went to the vaping presentation, I guess it was last week, which I found really informative and really interesting, though afterwards, doing some online research and reading, felt like I took a step away from the edge there after. It was very enlightening. So,
Thank you.
I was at the vaping talk as well. It was eye-opening for me anyway. I didn't know, and I think encourage parents to find out as much as they can, because it seems as though it's in our state. It's really middle school kids that are being targeted or seem to be most interested, and that's the age group as they move up, if we see vaping go up or not. And I guess we all just need to be a lot more knowledgeable So anyways, that we can figure out to help educate ourselves and other people. I would also say that both Chief Conley and Chief Trigo were there, and I just want to, publicly say, they show up at a lot of events, and it's really great to have them there. And, parents recognize them, and it means a lot to have them there. They work really hard on a lot of these initiatives, so.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy. Dr. Kulikowski?
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. I agree with Dr. Clancy and Mrs. Winkler. I was also at the art show last week, and it was phenomenal. The talent from grades, K all the way up through high school, wonderful ceramics, watercolors, black and white prints. It was wonderful. But I was also at the vaping. We had about 200 people attend that night, and Karen Steele from MAC was there, and Liz Nodell Gordon had the speaker, Christina. She was wonderful. And just the fact that vaping is no healthier than smoking, and she actually talked about popcorn lung, the fact that it's irreversible damage to the lung from juuling, where people think, oh, it's cool, it looks good, it's not as bad as smoking, it's not tobacco, it's worse. And the fact that 200 parents came out to see it was good. That means more will get out there, and they will offer the program again in other fashions sometime. Also yesterday, PTA Council met in this room for the changing of the guard. Current PTA Council handed over the gavel to the new PTA Council presidents, and we had the annual past president meeting. Deb, you missed the meeting, but you were there for the luncheon, and we had several past presidents from the PTA that started in 1957 that have been working in this district all those years, so there's still a good camaraderie that was had by all. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Mass.
I actually attended in Flemington at their middle school, a New Jersey elementary and junior high honors choir. So we had a number of students who had auditioned and were accepted into this choir. It was from grades 4 through 8. So two of our teachers, Caitlin Reisner from Calls, who's our general music teacher there, and Jennifer Jenkins, who is our choral music teacher at Park, they have been coaching the kids, auditioning them, and then when they're accepted, they work on the pieces that they're going to be singing. And it was absolutely beautiful, and these two teachers have been doing it for their entire career.
Wow.
In Caitlin's case, she's been teaching for 4 years, but Ben Jenkins had brought Caitlin in, and they're really doing great work with that. And also, I attended the Terrell Middle School faculty meeting on Monday, and I was surprised to see that students were actually in attendance at the meeting, and they were giving the teachers their perspective of the challenges of being middle school kids. And the teachers really were like on the edge of their chairs with the access to the information that they were getting from the kids. I was too. They really were very earnest in what they were sharing, and I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do with that data that was gathered.
Good. Wonderful. I love the student voice part. I did want to mention that we had a school resource officer, first day at the high school today, and I know there had been comments and questions in the past, so want to point that out. And also Relay for Life is this Friday, May 10th, at 6 p.m. and ending Saturday morning. So for everyone who wants to know about Relay for Life and be involved, this is your chance.
One more thing.
Yes, Dr. Kulikowski.
I also forgot to mention that Tuesday night, I was invited to attend the MAC Volunteer of the Year presentation, and one of our high school teachers, Mrs. Kelly Robertson, was awarded the honor for Scotch Plains Fanwood District, and she brought along Joyce and Mary, two of her classroom aides. They do so much to help MAC as far as getting things ready for Think Purple Week and other projects. So the fact that Kelly was honored, she was there, her husband, her son came along too, and Karen Steele and Kathy Shields are also on the MAC committee, so it was wonderful to see her get honored for all the things she has done all these years for the district for MAC.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, we have a lot of reminders about upcoming dates, and want to mention that the staff art show is before the next meeting, so people have a chance to show up early. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I know there's no one opposed, so have a good evening.
Thank you. A question. You said early, 6:30 to come?